Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the Niner Sickness Podcast. I apologize for the delay. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties with my guest, but we got it squared away. Here we are. We're about to have some fun. We're going to talk 49er training camp. We're going to talk Trey Lance. We're going to talk Debo. We're going to talk defense, secondary. The secondary is looking really, really good after this intro. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Niner Sickness Podcast. How's everybody doing? Thank you for guys waiting for us. I appreciate your guys' loyalty and faithfulness. But I like to say before we get this party started, please do me a favor and wipe your feet before entering and smash that like button for your boy, Niner Sickness. Oh my goodness, so much to talk about. I have a great guest. We're going to talk 49er football. Trey Lance, how's he doing? What is he doing in training camp? Debo, since he signed his contract, has Debo been doing? Is he a difference to this offense? What about the running game? We're going to talk a little bit about the running backs. I'm fired up. What's up, real quick? I just want to say what's up, Playboy Loco in the house. What's up, brother? We got Daniel Cantu in the house. Don, how you doing, Don? Tell Ariel and Jayla that I said hello. Joseph Hayden, the Killer Bee, is here. What's up, brother? How you doing? Welcome. Lucky King. What's up, brother? How you doing, sir? We got J.R. Meadows. They're starting to come in. Well, with no further ado, let me go ahead and bring my guest because I know you guys did not come to see me, but to see my guest. We got Shifty from Shifty's 49er Talk. Let's go ahead and give him a warm welcome. How you doing, Shifty? How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. It's great to be on here. By the way, the technical difficulties were my fault.
Oh, stop. It's okay. No worries.
So don't blame Niner sickness. But yeah, it's great to be on here, man. I've been actually watching like a number of your shows for a while, and I love your setup. I love like the Niner tattoo here. I got a little one. The helmet back here, my elbow.
Okay, but, there you go. I love it.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here.
Man, I'm glad to have you, brother. Glad to have you. I got a couple right here. I get, it's up. I love the Lakers. I love the A's in baseball, but only the Niners is what I have tattooed. The Niners is definitely my best team. And it has been since 1978. I've been following the Niners. So I'm glad to have you, brother. I've seen you around. I've seen you making your way around social media. And I told myself, you know what? I got to bring this gentleman on and talk a little football. And listen, no more speculations, no more what we think is going to happen. We are actually live in the training camp. Things are happening. We can talk facts, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Trey Lance. And I don't know if you've been to training camp or not, but I want what you've been hearing either on Twitter, on YouTube, Instagram. What are your thoughts on Trey Lance so far?
I think everything has kind of gone how I expected anyways, because he's very young. We know that he didn't really play. He played one game the last season at North Dakota State. He played a couple games last year. I thought he looked pretty good for a rookie. But there's going to be, ups and downs. It's going to happen, not only because he doesn't have the most experience, but the defense he's going up against, is just lights out. Like this defense, I think if this defense doesn't finish top 5 in the NFL, I would be shocked. So it's to be expected. And I think it's also one of those things where like in training camp that defenses are usually farther ahead along to start training camp than the offenses are. That's something that I saw Richard Sherman mention on Twitter. So, and he's really been talking up the Niner defense. So, yeah, there's ups and downs, but it's going to happen. But I think it sounds like he's getting better. So that's what you want to see.
Absolutely. And the thing people say that he's been struggling throwing interceptions himself, and the rest of the quarterbacks, but they don't realize how good this defense. Like you said, I'll be shocked if this defense is not top three defense this year. Myself, one of the areas that this defense really had, if there was a weakness, was the secondary. It wasn't the linebacking core because we have arguably the best trio in the NFL, and we have great D linemen in front. What we lacked in, unfortunately, due to injury, has been the secondary. And this year, the Niners having to take care of that. They brought in the free agent Charvarius Ward from Kansas City. He's been, for what I've been hearing, he's been killing it in camp. He's him and Emmanuel Mosley have been teaming up, feeding off each other's energy, and just knocking balls down. So, and then Talanoa Hufanga has been really stepping up, and I think they're going to use him more on the outside with the tight ends. And he's been handling his business. He's won a few one-on-ones against George Kittle, and that's not an easy task. So let me ask you, Shifty, if this secondary can be 10 times better than it was last year, how much does that help the front four?
Well, it absolutely helps out the front four. And I think, last year it was the secondary was relying on the front four to get all the pressure. But now I think this secondary should be able to cover people. Like, you think about it, last year we were putting out Josh Norman, who, outside of getting some fumbles, he really didn't do anything. We had like a bunch of rookies out there with Ambry Thomas and Lenore. So this defense with Charvarius Ward, with Emmanuel Mosley, and hopefully those guys stay healthy, man, they are just perfect for this scheme. So I think the defense is the secondary is going to be a lot better. I like to think that we'll get a lot more interceptions. That's something that we didn't see a ton of last year, especially early on. But you think about this division as well, the guys we go up against week in and week out. So the Rams, they have, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, the Seahawks, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Cardinals, Hopkins, so they have a couple of guys there too. So if we want to compete and be able to win games, we got to be able to match up with the receivers that we play against. And I think we can now. And look, we haven't even really seen much from Jason Verrett. Maybe he plays some this year. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm glad you mentioned Jason Verrett because we're not going to need him the way we needed him in 2020. In 2020, he was the number one corner, and we depended on him, and he did great for us. Unfortunately, 2021 wasn't the year that was good for him. He got hurt. But this year, because we have Ward and because we have Emmanuel Mosley, Every Thomas, and everybody there, we can now just sprinkle in Jason Verrett. And if we can keep him healthy towards the end of the season and possibly, hopefully, the playoffs, that's going to be a good thing to go into the playoffs with a great secondary. Now, one of the questions that I have is probably who's going to play inside. Is it going to be Lenore? Is it going to be Samuel Womack, the rookie? Is it going to be Denard? He did pretty good last year. Is he going to be able to step up? That's the area that I'm concerned. Who's going to take the inside slot now that we lost? Help me out here. The kid that went to Denver.
K1.
K1, thank you. Now that we lost K1 to free agency, and he was getting up there in age as well. He wasn't the same K1, but yet he did some amazing things with us. So if we can figure that out, we'll be in great shape. But I love this front office, this front four with all the rotations. I've been hearing great things about Drake Jackson. I've been hearing a lot of things about a lot of these newcomers. Unfortunately, we lost Hurst for the year, and I feel bad for Hurst because he has so much potential. We saw flashes of him last year, and then he was hurt. I was hoping to see him really, really take off this year, and now he's going to be off on IR for the rest of the year. That is devastating. And I heard the same thing about Eric Armstead, but Eric Armstead said he's okay. They're just being precaution with him. He'll be fine week 1 against the Bears. But I think that this is the last time we've seen him throughout the training camp and preseason. So let me ask you, Shifty. We're playing 3 games in 12 days. I believe that's what Kyle Shanahan said. That's crazy. Because of that, do you expect the Niners to kind of go the Rams route where they don't really play the starters? And with that question, real quick, Trey Lance is technically the starter now, but because of a lack of experience, do you think he's an exception, or do you think he won't play either in preseason games?
I think that we should see a decent amount of Trey Lance because you look, we want to get him reps against like other teams. If I had to guess, I would say that in the preseason, what Kyle is going to say is that like, hey, it's going to be, I'm sure they'll try a couple plays out and see how they work. But we definitely don't want to risk anything. I think it'll be a lot of like short passes, quick passes. Let him work on that. And something that Kyle has always said too is that he finds that like, I mean, regardless of how many preseason games we have in a short amount of time, is that he always values practice more. So I think we'll see quite a bit of Lance, but maybe it's just getting reps with like, Brunskill at center so he can practice, working with him, building that chemistry and things like that. Um, I'm very curious to see how Shanahan approaches preseason because, as you mentioned, there's 3 games in 12 days, which is just crazy for football. Like that doesn't happen. But as much as I think that we'll see quite a bit of Trey Lance, there's so many, like this roster is so deep that there's so many good battles that we're going to see, who's going to, we're so deep at like almost every position that like, I think preseason is going to be really fun to watch to being a 49ers fan because, all these guys are just battling for that like last spot on the roster. So it's going to be a fun 12 days. That's for sure.
Yeah, from the perspective of the fans base, yes, definitely. The players not so much because they're going to be working their butts off, but there are definitely players out there that are not certain to make the team, and this is where they're going to audition not only for the 49ers but for all the 31 teams out there. So they got to work hard and put in their stuff. There's so many players out there that I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. A lot of the young kids that we got picked up in the secondary, the undrafted kids. I'm excited to see how they do because it's going to be a competition. It has been a competition. I don't expect to see a lot of Nick Bosa. I want to see more of Drake Jackson. I want to see how he does against other linemen. People have been raving about him, how his been for being a rookie. Even Bosa said that Bosa couldn't do the things that Drake Jackson can do when Bosa was a rookie. So that's a high praise for a young kid. And I'm excited with this defense. I think this defense is going to have a lot of takeaways, Shifty. I think this defense is going to help out a lot of Trey Lance. It's going to allow Trey Lance to play more comfortable, knowing that if he makes a mistake, that the defense will bail him out and give him back the ball. And if you have that cushion, I know a lot of people are worried. I know a lot of people are worried about Trey. Oh my goodness, he's a rookie. He hasn't played. He's taking over Jimmy. But look, this team is built around the running game and the defense. Jimmy G did not really do that much. Okay, so people got to stop thinking that Trey Lance is replacing a Steve Young or replacing a Joe Montana production. He's replacing Jimmy Garoppolo's production. What did Jimmy have last year? 20 touchdowns and 13 interceptions, I believe, for 3,500 plus yards. I don't see why Trey can't do that under Kyle Shanahan, given that Jimmy has a quicker release. But I think that Trey offers the ability to extend plays when they break down with his mobility. Now, I wanted to ask you, Shifty, this. Trey Lance. A lot of people think he's a runner. Some people think he's not a runner. Some people think he's just a pocket passer with the ability to extend plays with his legs. I know what I feel that he is. I would love to ask you, how do you perceive Trey Lance? Do you think he's a runner, or do you think he's a pocket passer with with ability to move with his legs?
God, that's a really good question. I think I'll put it this: I think he's a runner. He can be a runner. I think the with Trey Lance though, what he needs to work on is, I think his mentality as a runner is more like a running back. Like, it's something that I watched at when he was at North Dakota State, where he was like running guys over, and like that's fine maybe in college or once in a while, but when you're the quarterback and we rely on you to be healthy, you can't really be doing that. You got to slide, you got to get out of bounds. So I think something that, I know this might be considered blasphemy, but I think he needs to like watch a lot of what Russell Wilson did, or even Patrick Mahomes, right? So those guys will run when they need to, but they never really took big hits. And that's why they were able to stay. That's why both of those guys are able to stay healthy for the most part. Whereas Trey Lance, like that game against Arizona last year, wow, he took so many big hits. Like, if he wants to get through, we think about it. Last year, we played 20 regular season games. Well, we played 17 regular season games, 3 playoff games. Like, if Trey Lance wants to survive 2021 competitive games, he can't be taking hits like that week in and week out. So I believe that there will be some times where Kyle is going to draw up a play where he gets the defense completely going in one direction, and maybe it's a fake, play action, whatever, and he runs out. But I think that we need to be careful with that. We don't want him getting hurt, obviously. And I think he needs to learn how to slide. Maybe he goes to hang out with the A's or the Giants or whoever for a while and be like, okay, just how do I slide so I don't get hurt? Or even just watching tape of guys like Russell Wilson, because we need him out there. So I think he can run. I just think that a lot of times his mentality is just that of a running back, which he can't have as the quarterback of a franchise.
I like that point. My perspective of Trey Lance, based on what I've seen of North Dakota State and the type of quarterback is, a lot of people reference him to Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is definitely a runner. Josh Allen can run. In my opinion, Trey can't. Trey's a terrible runner. He is a pocket passer quarterback with the ability to move enough to get out of the pocket to allow the receiver to open up and become free from the defenders. He can run, but he's not a runner like Josh Allen is. And a lot of people are trying to put Trey, in my opinion, in that category. And Trey needs to learn how to fall forward. He has a difficult time falling. He needs to learn a lot from Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell doesn't know how to fall anywhere but forward. And that's what he needs to learn. So Trey's always looking down the field. Trey's always thinking, okay, who's open? Which route is developing? And before he decides to run. Josh Allen, if something breaks down immediately, he right away wants to run. Lamar Jackson, we know he's a runner. Probably arguably one of the best runners since I can't think of his name, from Atlanta a few
Michael
years.
Vick.
Michael Vick, thank you. And he's a runner like that. So Trey Lance is, like I said, in my opinion, he's definitely a pocket passer with the ability to move with his legs and able to extend plays. And if he needs to run for 4 or 5 yards, I can see him doing that. So a lot of people think that he's going to run for 300-400 yards. That's not Trey. He is more of a pocket pass. He wants to throw the ball deep. He's escaping the pocket. He'll step in and step out, go left or right until he sees a receiver or George Kittle or a running back open up, and then he'll release the ball. But that's my thoughts on Trey. I want to hear from the audience and the people in the comments. What do you guys think? Is Trey Lance a runner? Is he a mobile? Is he a pocket passer with the mobility that he's able to move? What do you guys think in the chat? I always love getting people involved. I just want to say hi to Rudy from Ramelia Sports Report, big time Rams fan, loves his Rams. Unfortunately, not everybody's can love the Niners, but he's like that stepbrother, you know what I mean? We have Brian in the house that had just popped in. Appreciate you guys. Let me read some of these questions for you, brother. It says, I believe the reason some Niner fans are worried about Trey coming in is because Kyle hasn't shown he could win with anyone except Jimmy. Kyle is 8 to 29 without Jimmy. We'll see it'll be interesting. Excuse me, my reading. It's been a long day today. I even forgot to put on my jersey that I was going to put on. It's been one of those days, but I've been working on my car all day. To Rudy, when you have Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard, it's hard to win. I don't care who you are. McVay wouldn't have done anything with those cats. All we really had has been Jimmy. So, yes, he wins with Jimmy. But people underestimate Kyle Shanahan. And as much as you love Sean McVay as your head coach of your team, you got to remember that a lot of the things that he learned from Kyle. He came under Kyle's tree. So if you're saying that Kyle can really, coach quarterback, I mean, how many besides, if I'm not mistaken, he couldn't win big games with Jerry Goff. He had to go and get Matthew Stafford to finally win the big game. So I could say the same thing about Sean McVay. The point is, Rudy, in my opinion, is that Kyle Shanahan finally has the quarterback that he hopes can be the quarterback where Kyle Shanahan can open up the playbook and do a lot of the things that he was handicapped with Jimmy. We're going to find this year. We're going to find out. All I know is this, even though if Rudy doesn't want to admit it, deep down inside, Shifty, he is scared that he is scared that Trey Lance turns out to be a great quarterback. He's quietly hoping that he's a bust, because if he is what we think he will be, we will be dominating the West for years to come. It's going to be back like in the 80s where we won 17 consecutive times against the Rams.
Yep, I completely agree. And I think, Trey has like so much potential, and I would guess that the offense that we're going to see this year is going to be a little bit closer to what the Falcons had when they had like Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and those guys. Like, we're going to air it out a little bit more. But
yes,
the beautiful thing about that is that Trey throws a much, much better like deep ball. Like we saw against the Texans last year when Trey Lance hit Deebo Samuel, the ball went 40 yards in a split second. So that's what defenses have to think about now. We're seeing Ayuk in training camp make plays against Emmanuel Mosley and Charvarius Ward, some top guys. So defenses now have to think about that. But then they also have to worry about, hey, we can run the ball. Hey, we can dump it off to Deebo. We can dump it off to Kittle. We can do all these other things. And so I think what I've been hearing a lot of like in interviews and stuff is the fact that, you have to defend the entire field now. Whereas with Garoppolo, it was always you either run the ball or else it's a pass somewhere in the middle of the field. Rarely do we kind of go to the outside. Rarely do we go deep. But now defenses have to worry about that, as well as all the other things that we can still do well. So, the offense has the potential to be scary good. And look, I think we said it, we both think our defense is going to be top 3, top 5. We still have a great running game. We saw with Deebo's still happy to run the football. And so I just don't know how you stop everyone. It's crazy.
Yeah, and we're going to transition with that into the Deebo Samuel. I'm glad you brought it up, because this guy is jack of all trades. He can do everything. And people they asked him, the media reporter asked him about, was he really complaining about running, and was he complaining about being used as a running back? And he said, didn't you watch the Cowboy game in the playoffs? Didn't you watch me talk in what he called it, the Pro Bowl, when he said that he wanted, what did he call himself, a H-back or
wide back?
Wide back, excuse me. Yes, he called himself a wide back. And he kind of smirked at the idea that people thought that he didn't want to play. He wants to do whatever it takes. I always said it. He's a playmaker, and playmakers want the ball in their hands, and he has the ability. Now, Kyle's going to be smart also to say, okay, we're not going to jeopardize him getting hurt. So they brought in TDP to come in. And another thing that I've been hearing too is Trey Sermon has been killing it in camp, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I'm happy that Debo signed. I wanted to ask you the contract that he received. He did get paid a little bit less than DK Metcalf. I think Debo was a better receiver or player overall. I want to get your thoughts. Do you think that contract was decent? Do you think he was overpaid, underpaid, or was just right for Debo?
I think it's just about right. Personally, I think that, I mean, especially for the offense that we run, I would much rather have Debo than DK. That's not to say that DK
Correct.
Metcalf is not a good receiver. He's a very good receiver. I just think he's good for what Seattle do. Um, but kind of going back to like the question is that like Debo's fantastic. I think it's a good deal for both sides because Debo's thought process is, hey, like, I want to be able to, when I'm like 29 years old, I want to be able to get another big deal, whether that's with the 49ers or not. Whereas with the 49ers, it works out really well. Number one, because a few months ago, maybe a lot of us thought that he might not be back. But not only that, like we get Debo for the first, 7, 8 years of his career, like the prime years of his career. If he is still who he is, then yeah, we can still extend him, in a few years. And if maybe he's wearing down a little bit, then unfortunately the way business goes, but like then we can move on. And I think also the timing works out too, because in a couple of years, we're going to have to start thinking about signing Brandon Ayuk. So then once we give him the big contract, maybe Debo's contract numbers start to finish up. So ultimately, I'm just really happy that Debo's going to be here for another 3 years, because the amount of times last season where I was just left just thinking like, wow, this guy is so good. And we have him for another 3 or 4 years or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm just, stoked to have him. I think it worked out for everyone, the money, the time. I think it's a perfect deal.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad he signed, and he's part of the team now. He wanted to be part of the team. Unfortunately, with negotiations, things happen like this. They asked him, what did he want to be traded? And he said, "Listen, I am here now. I signed. Let's move forward." And people are always going to want to pick on things. People. He wanted to get money. He wants to get paid. A lot of these players don't. People don't realize players may never get to their second contract. They want to get financially secure, so they're going to use whatever tax. Now he was a little bit louder than what we are accustomed with, because we didn't hear anything from Fred Warner. We didn't hear anything from Kittle. So everything's kind of been quiet. Debo's a little bit loud, but a lot of receivers, they're kind of divas. They like to be loud, and that's okay. He signed. He's here. Great guy to have, especially with a young quarterback like Trey. You want to have a Debo on your arsenal if you're a young quarterback like Trey. And transitioning now to Brandon Ayuk, you mentioned him about maybe signing him in about a year or two. This kid has been killing it in camp. There is nobody better in camp than Brandon Ayuk. This kid has been catching everything. He looks like he's going to have a career year. If he does that, and if he has that Pro Bowl year, you're right. He's going to demand to get paid soon. And I've never really seen a team have 220 plus million a year receivers on a team. But we don't have to worry about that today. Brandon Ayuk is in a fifth year option, so we're good. I want to ask you, Smitty, how good do you think Brandon Ayuk can be this year with Trey Lance at quarterback, my friend?
That's a good question. Here's how confident I am in Brandon Ayuk. I think he will be, and let's just assume, for argument's sake, that everyone's healthy, like most of the games at least. I think he leads the team in receiving yards this year. That's how good I think he is. He has that chemistry with Trey Lance. They've been working out all off season long. In training camp, like it seems like every day there's a couple of brand new highlights of like Lance throwing it deep to Ayuk. We know that Debo's going to get his yards. We know that Kittle's going to get his yards. But man, I think that like a lot of defenses too, like any team that you go up against, when you ask a team like, oh, how do you stop the 49ers? The couple of things they're going to say is, got to stop the run game. But then they're thinking, got to stop Debo, got to stop Kittle. But it's like, well, then you get Brandon Ayuk in one-on-one coverage all the time. We saw what he did against the Cowboys, against Trayvon Diggs. He made him look bad, like multiple times, and Jimmy couldn't hit him. He got wide open against the Cowboys. Jimmy missed him. But overall, I think he's going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups, and his route running. Jimmy Ward just said in practice he didn't even have one good rep against Brandon Ayuk yet, and we know that Jimmy Ward's a very good player. So I think Ayuk should actually lead the team in receiving yards. He maybe could have done that last year, but we know that like the first 4 or 5 games, whatever was kind of happening behind the scenes, that Shanahan didn't want to play him that much. But I think the great thing too is that like Ayuk seems to have stepped up in terms of like a leadership role. He's a lot more vocal now. And I just think he's such a good player. Like he's going to break out in a big way.
Yeah, exactly, bro. And what people don't realize that Trey Lance, he's not going to be asked to do much. He's not because of the weapons he has around him, because of the roster, the run game, Kyle Shanahan scheming up plays, the defense with DeMeco Ryan, and now having a good secondary that can cover. We're not going to have to put that much pressure on Trey. Trey doesn't have to win games for us. You just got to make sure he doesn't lose games for us, and we'll be fine as Trey gets better and better and better. This kid has a lot of great potential. There's so many things that we can do now with Trey that we couldn't do with Jimmy. The fact that we can now play 11 on 11 instead of 11 on 10. The middle linebackers, especially when we play the Rams, since we have our boy Rudy, Bobby Wagner is going to have to decide, is he handing the ball over to the running back or is he keeping it himself? And all it takes is a split second to make the wrong choice, and Trey will make you pay. So that's the ability that we have now, and Kyle Shanahan is going to exploit that. He's going to exploit those things that he can do with Trey that he couldn't have done with Jimmy. So that's what excites me as a Niner fan. Of course, Trey will have his up and downs. He is a rookie. He's going to see a lot of different schemes in defensive. Defenses are going to be throwing things at him. It's going to catch him unaware, some of those defenses, and he'll make some of those mistakes. But I'm confident with Bosa. I'm confident with Eric Armstead, with Fred Warner, Aziz, and Greenlaw, linebackers, and now with Charvarius Ward, which I think Charvarius Ward is very underrated. I think he's going to show the league that he's a great corner. And with DeMeco's scheme, the way he hides corners, it's nice to have a Ramsey. Yes, the Rams have Ramsey, arguably, in my opinion, the best corner in the NFL. But the Niners never been known to have like that type of big names because the way they schemed the defense. We just did, we had, what's his name last year? Oh my goodness, the guy that we picked up because we lost our Verrett, Josh Norman.
Yeah.
Okay, when you have Josh Norman, there's not that much DeMeco can do. So there was a lot of pressure there. Now that you have Ward, it's a great. I mean, Ward has been making a big difference. So with this defense, Shifty, playing as good as he's going to play, not really requiring Trey to do much, having a Deebo Samuel, having a Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, arguably the best tight end, having the best left tackle in football, and the silverback. Now, there's concerns who's going to be center, who's going to be at the right guard now, or right tackle. Now, I've been hearing great things about Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks has been killing it in training camp. He's been doing great at left guard. Now, the rookie, Spencer Burford, has been starting with the ones from day one in camp at right guard and has not given it up. I mean, this kid is killing it at right guard. He's a big boy. He's killing. So the question really is, who's going to be center? Is it going to be Jake Brendel? Is it going to be Daniel Brunskill? It seems the battle is there. Now, I'm thinking they're going to be leaning more with Daniel Brunskill at center. And we know we have Mike McClinchy at tackle. So a lot of people are thinking, wow, this offensive line, they're missed a couple misses pieces. They're going to struggle. But I got a feeling the way Spencer Burford has been playing at right guard, the way Aaron Banks has been playing left guard next to the best tackle in the NFL. I think with Kyle Shanahan scheming the right plays to take to some of that relief off the offense, I think this offense will be fine. And the run game is also going to open up. I can't wait for the run game. Let's talk a little bit about the run game. Elijah Mitchell, 6th-round pick, okay, out of Louisiana. Who was this kid? I don't know about you. I knew of him a little bit, but I wasn't like, oh my God, this kid's gonna be great. Trey Sermon was more in Ohio State. I knew more about him. I was looking forward to seeing him produce. He didn't work out as well as I thought he would last year. He got hurt, but Elijah Mitchell came out of nowhere, Shifty, and he got hurt. He got bigger. He came into camp bigger, stronger. That's going to be a plus. This guy's going to be our RB1. But I've been hearing that Trey Sermon has been killing it in training camp. He looks like he looks way better than he did last year going into camp. And then TDP that we picked up from LSU has been killing it as well. And then the kid that I want to also talk about, I want to ask you about, is the undrafted free agent, which out of all those that I mentioned, this kid, I'm really rooting for this kid. This kid I want to see him do great, and I'm talking about Jordan Mason. I hope he beats out Jeff Wilson Jr. And makes the team. I've been hearing this guy's been hitting the holes. He has great vision. He can see those holes opening up. What have you heard of these running backs? And let's go ahead and do it in the order of Jordan Mason, Trey Sermon, and TDP.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're hearing like a lot of good things, especially, Jordan Mason. I don't think too many people heading into training camp really expected a whole lot from him, but he's been looking really good. I love to hear about Trey Sermon, and it's clear that Trey Sermon, there was videos like he was putting in a lot of work, so you love to see that in the off season to get ready. I think he was mentioning that he's like a little bit bigger now. Something that I also saw today was because he was doing an interview with the media, and he said that he feels like a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident in the offense. So that's a big thing for Kyle Shanahan, because a lot of times in the offense, we see it how it works is like you just have to have that confidence. Just you find the little hole and then bam, you just go for it. So if he can reach that level, then that's fantastic. It's going to come down to like there's a lot of different things that are going to play into like who makes the running back room, because to me, if we look at the running backs, Elijah Mitchell, as you said, he's running back number one. He'll end up getting the majority of the carries. Although I do think they probably want to scale him back a little bit. But you kind of have to figure that TDP will be one of those guys because he was a 3rd-round pick this year, and he's looked pretty good too. I think, Trey Sermon's looking a lot better. But it comes down to who are the other guys. So we have JaMycal Hasty, Jeff Wilson Jr., and Jordan Mason. Now, I guess like one of my things that I've said a couple of times on streams before, which people disagree with, is I think that people undervalue JaMycal Hasty because he's the best receiving back that we have, and that's really important for Shanahan. But if you think back to a lot of the games last year, towards the end of the year, Hasty was out there on like the important downs, like 3rd downs in the big games. So I don't want to write off a guy like JaMycal Hasty just yet. I think we maybe will try and sneak Jordan Mason onto the practice squad. Hasty knows the offense, and he's kind of like, people look at him, he's a shorter guy, he's 5'8", but he's 205. So he's actually, he's heavier than a guy like Jeff Wilson, believe it or not. So he's a big dude as well. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the running game. I just think the great thing that we have is that we're talking about maybe 5 or even 6 guys who could make the team but we know that maybe only 4 of them do it. But we know we're going to get the best out of all of these guys, and they're going to be competing big time. So it's going to be I'm just guessing on who's going to make the team. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's definitely guard. It's going to be definitely a lot of competition there. Now, the only thing that scares me with Jordan Mason is if he does really well, if he continues to do as good as he is in camp and then does great in preseason, you have a team that we know that loves to take our players. And you know, those are the Seahawks. They're always waiting.
Mm-hmm.
There's like they have someone, they're just looking at our players. And I'm afraid that he gets picked up because I would hate to see us cut him with the thought process of bringing Mason onto the practice squad and then somebody else picks him up and he becomes a bona fide starter or a beast. And I'll be like, dang, you know what I mean? So, but it is what it is. We're Kyle Shanahan and Anthony Lynn. And then another thing, Anthony Lynn has been using these running backs as pass catchers more than they normally use. And that benefits one, JaMycal Hasty that I forgot to mention. Thank you for bringing him up. Totally slipped my mind. He is a great back catcher. So it's going to be interesting to see who makes the team running backs. I mean, oh my goodness. See, I kind of have an idea what we have in receivers, who's going to make it in the receivers, but the running backs, it's going to be tough to see. But I look forward to see the competition. Iron sharpens iron. And another thing that I wanted to mention real quick about that is that even though Trey seems to struggle a little bit against in training camp, it's because he's going against one hell of a defense, probably the best defense he's going to face all year in regular season. So iron sharpens iron, man. So this defense will make Trey better, and that's good for us, man. That's good for us. I'm excited. So moving on real quick to the receivers, I just want to. We talked about earlier about Ayuk and we talked about Debo. I want to get your thoughts on Ray McLeod and Gray, Danny Gray, the rookie. What have you been hearing about them so far?
I think it was yesterday that Danny Gray had a really good day. We know what he's about. He's about speed. He's just electric speed. I'm thinking that Shanahan will try and use him like he tried to use Marquise Goodwin, but Danny Gray has bigger size as well. But I wouldn't be surprised, because I think, and not to get off topic here, but I think we are going to scale back how much we actually run Debo. I think that's going to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a guy like Danny Gray with that electric speed, on like end arounds and things like that. But anyway, ton of potential, obviously. With Ray, I liked him. I think decent. I think he's a good returner. I want to say his issue last year was fumbling.
Yeah.
I know Kyle is not a fan of that. So, of course, they're going to work on that, make sure that he doesn't do that or like limits it as much as possible. But I know he had success with Pittsburgh, caught a lot of balls, but didn't really have a ton of yards. So he could be like another Jawan Jennings type guy where it's like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4. He's a guy that you look to pick up those yards. Jawan is another guy too. It's I actually haven't heard too much from him in camp so far. Hopefully he's having a good camp and healthy and doing his thing because he really stepped up towards the end of last year. But the 5 guys that are kind of mentioned there, Debo, Ayuk, Jawan, Ray, and Danny Gray, like those are the 5 guys. I think we know that those are the guys who are going to make it. The question is whether we keep a 6th wide receiver. I don't know if we do. Maybe. I'm not sure. But there's a couple of guys there. But I like Ray. I like Danny Gray. I think the good thing about this wide receiver group is that they all have like different skill sets. So I think Shanahan loves that, being able to match up, get different matchups. And some games I think we might see, Danny Gray get a bunch of targets. We might go 2 weeks where he doesn't get a single target. I think it's all going to come down to how we match up against certain teams. So I think we're really good at wide receiver, though.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. And then, we've been mentioning wide receivers, running backs, and we haven't even mentioned truly Kittle, arguably the best tight end, great blocking tight end. They have used him a lot as a blocker, mostly than a pass catcher. with Debo and Ayuk, do you think that Kittle will continue to be used as a blocker, or do you think they're going to open him up and allow him to be that pass catcher now that we have Trey back there?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I would like to think that we definitely want to. I would imagine that Shanahan wants to get him more involved in the passing game. Um, we know how great of a block. I mean, Kittle is the best all around tight end in football. I don't think anyone could really argue that. We know he's a fantastic blocker. Um, yeah, it's really hard to say. But I would imagine that Shanahan wants to get the ball in Kittle's hands a lot more because we know how good Kittle is after the catch, mismatches against linebackers. You know, we saw that like multiple, like so many times throughout his career. So I would like to think that we'll get Kittle more involved in the passing game. And yeah, sometimes it's almost like a shame that he blocks so much, but he's also so good at it. I think what happened last year was we know that maybe halfway through the year that McGlinchey got hurt and Tom Compton is okay at best, maybe. So I think a lot of times they had Kittle kind of help him out a little bit. So if McGlinchey can stay healthy and kind of do his thing, and we obviously have Trent Williams, who's just the best in the world at what he does. I think we'll see a lot more of Kittle in the passing game, which is really going to put a lot of pressure on defenses too.
I agree. I agree 100%. Now, real quick, I just wanted, I'm reading in the comments, and my boy Rudy, who I love and respect, brought up a question that I think that this question can also apply to his team. He says, if this O line doesn't improve, it could be a rough year in San Francisco. If guys constantly get in Trey's face, you can't run or throw. Now, that is something that hopefully the Niners can work out. That is a possibility. I'm not going to lie. But the Rams lost their starting left tackle to retirement. They lost their left guard to free agency. Now, the Rams, Rudy and everyone that I've heard talk highly about this kid taking over a left tackle, but he's not as good, in my opinion, as who retired. They're worried about Trey Lance getting hurt. Trey Lance has mobility. He's young. Matthew Stafford, not so much, right? So now if the Rams play these defenses and they come on the left side and they penetrate and put pressure because this left guard or rookie left guard can't protect, they're going to run into a lot of the same issues that Niners are going to run in offensively. I don't think the Rams' offensive line is solid. What are your thoughts real quick on their offensive line?
Yeah, I mean it's obviously a big loss when you lose the entire left side of your offensive line, and yeah, Whitworth was like a really good left tackle, and he'd been in the league for so long that clearly a veteran who knew how to play the game, and it's going to be an adjustment, and I think it's definitely a negative that we know that Matthew Stafford isn't the most mobile guy, especially when you compare him to a guy like Trey Lance. Now, I think at the end of the day, though, we know that like Kyle and McVay, although they run like it's different schemes and whatnot, but I kind of when people really worry about the interior offensive line with the Niners, and I can see why. I also think back to 2019 when we had Garoppolo at quarterback, and for the Super Bowl, like we got to the Super Bowl with Ben Garland at center and Mike Person at right guard.
That's
None of these
right.
guys are ever going to sniff the Pro Bowl. So, and also people talk about Laken Tomlinson too. And I think he was a very good player with the 49ers. But when we traded for him, he was seen as kind of a bust in Detroit. He was a former first round pick, and they traded him away to us for, I think we traded him for like a fifth rounder or something.
Yep.
So I think we're able to identify guys who work for our scheme and really like roll with it. Am I concerned about our interior offensive line? A little bit, yeah, but maybe not as much as other people are. And I think the Rams will also be able to, find ways to make it work, and because they have a lot of like talent on the offense, and yeah, I mean it's definitely a concern for sure. But I'm not as worried about the 49ers offensive line as some people are. And I think the Rams, although it will be an adjustment, I think they'll be able to like make those adjustments fairly well.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Sean McVay will take care of that, as will Kyle Shanahan on our side. Um, we did have an injury. We lost earlier, like I said, we lost Hurst for the year. And now it seems like we lost Matthew. Unfortunately, this kid has been trying really hard to try to make a name for himself in the NFL. He switched from receiver to tight end, and Jordan Matthews has been doing everything possibly to try to make a name for himself, and unfortunately hasn't really planned out for him. I feel bad that he got hurt. I don't like injuries on any team, even the teams that I dislike the most, like the Cowboys. I don't wish injuries on no one because these kids have to feed their family, take care of their loved ones. So it is sad that he doesn't get another opportunity to show. So we pray. I pray, and I hope we all pray for a speedy recovery for him this year. And we unfortunately is the next man up, but it's sad to hear when somebody gets hurt. I believe it was an ACL, and those are not nice. So I mean, I've been hearing. I mean, I heard the same thing with the receiver out in Denver. Their second receiver, he got hurt, and the injury bug, man. Let me tell you, it's football is football. So let's just pray that we can continue to sustain practices without injuries. This is where I do respect Sean McVay not playing his starters in preseason. I never liked playing our starters in preseason. I've heard so many starters get hurt in preseason, and there's no need. You know what you have in Eric Armstead. You know what you have in Nick Bosa. You know what you have in Kittle. You know what you have in Debo and Ayuk. So there's no need for that, in my opinion. So hopefully now with Trey, maybe he plays a little bit more because even though he's a starting quarterback, as I said earlier, he hasn't really played. So he might be having a little bit more snaps than usual, but I want them to be wise with him as well. As we're getting close to our hour segment, and you've been an amazing guest, my friend, I wanted to ask you to name me one of your most favorable moments of your life that has to do with the Niners, no matter before. Which was one? I know that there's probably plenty. Uh, and if I started this question earlier, I probably would have said your top five. But since we're more towards the end and from the beginning, if you can name one, that'll be great.
Oh God. Well, okay. Top moments that I can think of are very quickly is 2002 playoffs when we came back against the Giants and they missed that field goal at the end. So we beat the Giants after coming back down like 21, 24 points.
Oh, with
Uh,
Jeff
I
Garcia.
was, yeah, that was great. I was a little bit young for the Steve Young to Terrell Owens, like the catch too. So I'm not going to count that. So I'll go, if I had to go top three, playoffs against the Giants 2002, Alex Smith to Vernon Davis against the Saints, and then I will go Navarro Bowman pick at the stick.
That's a beautiful one. That is a beautiful one. Take it to win it. We needed to win that game against Atlanta to do what we had to do. Those are three great choices, man. I'm old school. I'm a little bit, well, much way older than you are. I got the opportunity to watch all five Super Bowls in person. I went to all five Super Bowls. I got to enjoy to watch them at the Silverdome in Detroit, and then going to New Orleans for the Broncos game, Miami for the Chargers game, and watching Steve Young. I mean, I was a Niner fan prior to Joe Montana even and Bill Walsh. My favorite play was my first game ever at Candlestick Park. My first game. I was a Niner fan prior to that game, but that was my first game that I watched in person, and it was the catch. Dwight Clark against Joe Montana throwing to Clark. I was on the opposite side. I believe I was 13 years old at the time.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I really, so I can remember that very well. It was a great, I mean, I thought that I felt like almost like an earthquake because people were just jumping and fired up. So that one, and then I was also got to watch the Steve Young fumble, almost stumbling back, falling, throwing it to To against Green Bay, a team during that time that we had a hard time beating. Green Bay. It's not like now where we just slap them like our stepsisters, but especially in the playoffs. But back then we struggled against Brett Favre and the guys. So beating them was definitely nice. That catch that you said with Navarro Bowman was beautiful. Ran it back for a pick six. But there's so many. I mean, there's so many. My most favorable though, out of all of them, besides the catch that I saw that first one, was the catch from Joe Montana to John Taylor against Cincinnati in the Super Bowl, where it was 2 minutes, we were behind. Um, People hear the story. People heard the story of Joe Montana mentioned that when he was in the commercial break, he noticed John Candy in the crowd. I was like 2 rows or a row and a half away from where John Candy was. And
Wow.
I remember seeing that. I didn't know about the Joe Montanas until I heard that later on, but I remember that very vividly. And he said about, man, there's, John. And then he went on to have the best drive under 2 minutes and then score to John Taylor for the winning touchdown. And we became Super Bowl champions. That was arguably one of the greatest moments. And then also happened to be against Cincinnati the second time where we had a goal line stance where they went for it 4 times and we stopped them. Was a beautiful, so many memories that I have that I'm pretty sure you have within your time as well. It is a great time to be a 49er fan. It is exciting times. We went through our rough patches for sure, but now we're in a trajectory in the right way. If Trey Lance becomes who we think he will be, with his young core players around him, imagine just the possibilities, how good this team can be, Shifty, and how many championships we're going to be winning. And no disrespect to Rudy, because I know he mentioned it earlier about how they beat us in the NFC Championship. They did, but they beat us by 3 points. If Tart wouldn't have dropped that, and I don't like the what ifs, but if he wouldn't have dropped that, it could have been a different story. It is what it is, though. We lost, but I feel good in playing against the Rams week 4. I don't think that the Niners are like, oh my God, the passion of the torch. The Rams beat us in the championship. Now the Rams are going to start beating us every game. I don't think it's going to. I think if any team can dominate the Rams, is the 49ers. It's just a matter of what Trey Lance can do. So I appreciate you being on here, bro. I like having fun, but I like to keep my guests for an hour because I know everybody has a busy schedule. They got things to do. I don't like to keep nobody longer than an hour. It's been fun. I know people do topics and people have these and they go from A to Z. I'm kind of the kind of guy. My podcast is more of a kind of hangout, wing it type of thing where I just like to talk to whatever comes to mind. Like going into the barber shop, putting your feet up, getting a haircut, and just sitting there talking. That's the kind of atmosphere that I like to bring. So even though I give like my guests like yourself topics, I don't know why. My wife's like, why do you even send topics when you don't even follow them? I go, I don't know. Everybody else does it, but I like to wing it. You've been great, bro. You've been an amazing guest. We had a little bit of issues in the beginning, but we took care of it. Finally got it to work, and here we are, man. Before we go, where could people find you? How can they? I want to promote your YouTube. How can they find you on social media and all your social media? Please plug it in so they can go and support you.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Well, before I do that, man, I just want to say, obviously, thank you for having me on. I've seen like a number of like your posts on social media, whether it's like Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube, like different videos and whatnot. And I'm super jealous of your setup, by the way. It looks like such a great setup. So that's awesome. But uh, but yeah, to find me, Shifty's 49ers Talk. If you put that in on YouTube, I should pop up. I also have an Instagram with the same name. And then I recently just did a new Twitter with the same name as well. But yeah, Shifty's 49ers talk. And what I typically do is I'll do like different videos on like different topics that I want to cover. Um, Certain things that let's say I've done recently are like the guys who've been most impressive in training camp, talking about the Debo contract. A couple of videos coming up, I'll be talking about like my projected 53-man roster, things like that. During the season, I like to stream the game, so I'll have like my live reactions as the plays are happening. So definitely check that out. And I'll do game previews and review the game and stuff. But honestly, just, I was born in San Francisco. I live in San Francisco. Diehard 49er fan. And yeah, I just always love talking 49er football. And it's awesome to even to hear your stories about, being at the catch. It's always great. And that's like one of my favorite things about doing all of this is meeting new people and then meeting people who just love the team as much, if not more than how much I love the team. So yeah, super awesome to be on here. I'd be more than happy to come on again in the future. And yeah, just thank you for having me on, man.
I appreciate. Yeah, I definitely would have you back. Like I said, my show is really just it's a hangout. If you look at my title on it says, "Pick up your favorite beverage, take your favorite beverage, and just get back and enjoy the show." I know there's a lot of content creators out there that I love, the Justin Alpontes, the Rob Shoes, the No Border Sports, and everyone out there that mean the dream. All these young kids that are out there doing their thing. They provide updates like who's coming in, who's going out, what happening, and I leave that to them. I tell people I'm lazy, bro. I'm up there in age and I'm lazy. I don't want to do the work. I just want to keep back, honestly, just talk football, talk 49ers, and kind of take your slippers off and just talk a little football. And that's what I like to do on my podcast. And so you are always welcome to come back and hang out with me anytime, bro. I'm glad that you brought in, you plugged in your YouTube. I've been watching you. You've been killing it as well, bro. I love your takes, and you inspire me. Continue that passion. Continue to do what you do, man. You're starting to pick up followers. That's great. You're grinding. You're putting in the work, man, and it always pays off at the end, man. So I look forward seeing you on here again. So everyone that's been part of the show today, I just want to say thank you for hanging out with your boy Niner Sickness and the Niner Sickness podcast. My boy Shifty here today. Before I go, I want to see a bunch of thumbs up for my boy Shifty. If you love this guy, if you enjoy this guy today, and you love his show your 49ers tattoos again, bro. Show me your 49 tattoos.
So I got a helmet back here, and then actually above here I have. Let me try and get a little closer. I have a Snoopy as Joe Cool wearing a Snoopy with like a Montana jersey.
That's right nice. That is nice. There you go. See? So this guy loves his 49ers. He knows his 49ers. I appreciate all the thumbs that are going up for him. Definitely got to bring you back, brother. Thank you for being here. Everyone that stepped in today, if I missed your comment, my apologies. When I go solo, I tend to bring everybody's comment. When I have a guest, sometimes you get into the conversation with your guest. It's kind of hard to keep up with the comments when you're running the show by yourself. So sometimes I do miss a few people's comments. It's not me hating on anyone. You know that I have nothing but respect for each and every one of you. If I missed your comment, it was accidental, not intentional. You know that I show you guys love every single time. Real quick, I like to do a little bit of a giveaway when I have a guest. So I'm going to give away a patch. I'm going to have you ask the people in the audience a question. Start thinking a trivia question for me, Shifty. Before I let you go, I want you to ask, and the first person that answers the question is going to get the patch. And I'm going to show the patch that I'm going to be giving away. So it's the first. Now, when he asks the question, everyone, the first person that I see with the answer, or he sees, because I might not even know the answer. The first person that I'll put it this way: the first person that he sees, he'll name out the name. So whatever name pops up on your screen, Shifty, when you ask the question, mention that name for me. That'll be the winner, and that'll be the person that's going to get.
So I have a question ready. I just want to make sure that, okay, I did have the right answer in my head. Okay. So
hold on real quick. Let me.
I'm going to ask the question right now. In what round was 49ers legend wide receiver Terrell Owens drafted in?
There you go, guys. So the first name you see, Shifty, let me know, brother. There you go. There's the question for you. Let's see who, and it'll be for this beautiful 49er for life patch right here. So whoever wins is going to win this beautiful, beautiful patch.
That's a nice patch.
So,
oh, nope. David and Carcast and Rhino incorrect. Clown Man. It goes to Clown Man.
Clown Man?
Clown Man, the third round. He was drafted in the third round. Tennessee, Chattanooga.
Very good. I appreciate that, man. So this is for you, Clown Man. Make sure you send me an email at ninersicknesspodcast@gmail.com. Provide me your information so that I can mail it out. And my friend, Mr. Shifty, for being my guest, bro, I'm going to be giving this to you.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Thank you.
So this Niner Gang patch.
Nice.
This is a patch that I'm going to give you for being my guest. So you as well, send me an email at ninersicknesspodcast@gmail.com with your information. My birds are starting to get loud. Can you guys hear my birds? Can you hear my birds in the background? The louder I talk, the louder they get. And it's like, it's funny. But anyway, all right, guys. Congratulations to Clown Man for answering. Make sure you reach out to me. Do it quickly because I forget soon. So everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of the show. Until next time, guys. You know, guys, I love you guys. So have a wonderful, wonderful night. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Hang in there, Shifty.